It's been a few weeks since the Panthers traded with the Bears for the number 1 overall selection. At the time, all the comments were talking about how the Panthers got completely fleeced for all those draft picks and, of course, DJ Moore. But the comments were dying down until this week The Athletic released a new article talking about that trade, and all those same comments about the Panthers getting fleeced popping up on Twitter, Reddit, probably Facebook and TikTok, whoever's reading those. So let's explore that. Did the Panthers get fleeced? And I know what you're thinking. Yeah, of course they got fleeced. You'd have to be an idiot or a Panthers fan. So yeah, okay, I'm a Panthers fan. But no, I'm not snorting cope. I haven't done copium in years. I just have a difference of opinion. So we're gonna talk about it. Before we talk about the trade itself, we're gonna talk about how did the Panthers get here? How did they get in this quarterback situation? And for that, we're going to have to go back to the hiring of Matt Rhule. So Matt Rhule decided he was done with Cam Newton, and he's going to bring in a bridge quarterback. A Teddy Bridgewater quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater was probably the best quarterback of Matt Rhule's tenure, which isn't saying a lot. Fortunately, they didn't use any draft capital to acquire him, it was all just salary cap. But nevertheless, Panthers didn't field a great team with Teddy. Bridgewater was traded away to the Broncos for the 6th round pick in 2021, and that pick was used to trade up and select Brady Christensen. After Bridgewater, Matt Rhule decided he wanted a young quarterback, so why not draft one? Instead, he trades a 2nd round pick, a 4th round pick, and a 6th round pick for Sam frickin' Darnold. Now, if you've been even just the slightest bit aware and not in a coma of any sort, then you know Sam Darnold stinks. And that's why you never trade for a proven bust. And the draft picks that were sent to the Jets? Well, one was a 6th rounder, so who cares about that? The 2nd rounder was used to select Breece Hall, who's looked fantastic until his injury. And then the 4th rounder was used to select an offensive tackle who got injured as well. So now Matt Rhule is looking super foolish, going through 2 quarterbacks, not finding a solution. Then he decides, what can we do? Oh, I know. We'll trade for Baker Mayfield. That'll solve the problem. Wrong. So a 5th round pick was used to trade for Baker Mayfield, and that was just a nightmare. He was released mid-season and then signed on with the Rams to have some sort of amazing comeback. And now he's on the Bucs, which is just kind of weird. Then in Matt Rhule's final season, he finally has the genius idea to draft a quarterback. I mean, he's been using draft picks, but none of them on quarterbacks until now. And even with that one, he's got to use draft picks to acquire him. The Panthers sent a 4th rounder and a 3rd rounder to select Matt Corral. And that 4th rounder was used to select Bailey Zappi, who some might say is a better quarterback than Matt Corral. And Matt Corral getting injured in the preseason may have been the final nail in the coffin for Matt Rhule's tenure with the Panthers. It's hard to say for sure. It might have been Baker Mayfield as well. Who knows? So now that we talked about everything the Panthers did wrong at quarterback, let's talk about what the Panthers could have done right at quarterback. Looking back to 2020, Matt Rhule's first draft with the Panthers, that's when the GM was still Marty Herney. The Panthers scouts recommended pursuing Justin Herbert. Panthers knew they'd have to trade up to get him, but they decided they didn't want to hurt other areas of the team by using that draft capital. Pretty crazy that they didn't want to use any draft capital and ended up using all this extra draft capital just to get a quarterback. I mean, it reminds me of Breaking Bad. It's like, no more half measures, Walter. I'm not going to trade your pick, Walter. There's 2 things I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna trade your pick, and I'm gonna suck your dick, Walter. I'm not gonna do it. Another quarterback they could have taken in that draft, in the 2nd round, they easily could have taken Jalen Hurts instead of Yetur Gross-Matos. Nobody could have known that Jalen Hurts would have been as good as he turned out, except maybe Matt Rhule, because in Matt Rhule's final college game, he played against Jalen Hurts. It was Oklahoma versus Baylor. And guess who won that game? Yeah, Jalen Hurts. So then even in the next year's draft, when they finally had Scott Fitterer, a much more talented GM, they had 2 quarterbacks fall right to them. Justin Fields and Mac Jones. It seems like Rhule never really liked Justin Fields, so I guess I understand why he didn't want to draft him, even though I think he would have been a fantastic fit on the Panthers. As for Mac Jones, Matt Rhule commented how much he liked Mac Jones. He even coached him in the Senior Bowl. The exact quote is, "To me, no matter where Mac ended up, I knew he was going to be a long-time pro because he just has all the right qualities and all the right things that are essential to being a great player. He's elite. That was evident to me from the very beginning. Completely elite. He's just got juice, elite juice. You could see how intelligent he was the first day because of how elite he is. We put a lot to install in, a lot of the words in, a lot of the elite words. We used words like elite. If they could recite it, and he could recite it, he used the word elite a lot. Elite a lot, elite a lot, elite a lot, elite a lot." Now the crazy thing to me is, if they draft any of these quarterbacks that I just mentioned, they're probably a playoff team the last few years. They probably still have DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey on the team. They certainly don't waste all these draft picks on quarterbacks. But the bad side of that is they'd probably still have Matt Rhule as the coach. And yeah, I can tell you, as a Panthers fan, we would have given up this draft package just to get Matt Rhule fired last year. That's how bad we wanted him gone.
You gotta get Matt Rhule off the Panthers. You gotta get Matt Rhule off the Panthers.
You may think the Panthers gave up a lot for the number 1 overall pick, but in reality, there's something called the Dalton scale. Ironic since Andy Dalton is the quarterback for the Panthers now, but the Dalton scale says that if your team's current quarterback isn't over this threshold, then you need to be looking into a new quarterback. And for the past 2 years, the Panthers had quarterbacks well below the Dalton scale, so it was only a matter of time before they bit the bullet. And I actually like that they're going all out to try to get the best quarterback possible, no matter what the cost. So let's talk about the trade. They traded this year's first-round pick, this year's second-round pick, next year's first-round pick, 2 years from now's second-round pick, and DJ Moore. If you use the Jimmy Johnson model, then it looks like it's about even if DJ Moore is valued as the 30th overall pick. If you use the Rich Hill method, which is used more commonly today, then DJ Moore would be valued at the 15th pick for this to be an even trade. That's right around what A.J. Brown was valued at. And I don't think DJ Moore is as good as A.J. Brown. Actually, how good is DJ Moore? To answer that, we need to look at past Panthers wide receivers. There's nothing that really fit this comparison because the Panthers still wanted DJ Moore. All the Panthers wide receivers that left in the past, the Panthers no longer wanted them. For example, chosen Robbie Anderson. Panthers didn't want him anymore. I think he was traded just to recoup the value in the Laviska Shenault trade, but he went from averaging 30.5 yards per game with the Panthers to 7.6. Another example of this is Kelvin Benjamin, going from 58.8 to 36.2. Kelvin Benjamin was obviously butting heads with Cam Newton, which is why he was sent away. Steve Smith was also apparently butting heads with Cam Newton, but this is the only case where a former Panthers wide receiver did better after leaving the Panthers. He went from 49.7 yards per game the year before to 66.6 yards per game the year after with the Ravens. Now, Muhsin Muhammad left the Panthers on an extremely high note, over 1,400 yards in his final season with the Panthers, 87.8 yards per game, down to 50 yards per game when he signed with the Chicago Bears. Something else I discovered about DJ Moore, in the last 3 years, he actually has the second most drops and the most interceptions when targeted, with 24 drops and 20 interceptions when targeted. Drops are kind of subjectively measured, and DJ Moore didn't have these issues with his past quarterbacks. This is largely a problem that cropped up with Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and PJ Walker. So I don't know if this is really on the wide receiver in this case. I think it's more to do with the quarterbacks. While the Panthers did pay the going rate for the first overall pick, I think the reason people are calling it a fleece is because they don't think that any of the quarterbacks in this draft class are worthy of that cost. Which is kind of surprising because it's rumored that there were 4 other teams that were making similar offers to the Bears. The main difference is they were offering maybe a future first or second, instead of DJ Moore, and the Bears value DJ Moore more. So the other three teams, the Raiders, the Colts, and nobody said who the other team is. It's been hinted that the other team had a pick that was beyond the 10th pick in the draft. From that and the other rumors that are going on right now, I guess that team was probably the Tennessee Titans. Since most of the picks in the trade haven't happened yet, it's hard to say who fleeced who. We can create some scenarios to help figure out who would be the winner of this trade. So for the scenarios where the Bears would win this trade, the Panthers would have to finish as one of the 10 worst teams next season, meaning that the Bears are selecting the top 10, and DJ Moore has over 1,000 yards receiving. He would return to the form he was showing a couple years ago as a superstar wide receiver. Now for the scenario for the Panthers to win this trade, number 1, DJ Moore plays worse than Adam Thielen. It's a stretch, but it's possible. The Panthers make the playoffs. That means the first round pick that the Bears have from the Panthers would be 17th or worse. And the rookie quarterback the Panthers select plays so well that the Bears regret trading the first overall pick and wish they traded Justin Fields instead. I think these scenarios are far-fetched enough that anyone would agree with me if this happens that yes, the Panthers won this trade. What do you think? Do you think the Panthers got fleeced? Do you think they paid too much? Do you think they should have stayed in quarterback hell? And, oh yeah, which quarterback do you think the Panthers should take at first overall?